The deep sea is a world of harshness. In this unforgiving world, creatures cling to whatever energy sources they can find, from scalding underwater hydrothermal vents to sinking whale carcasses. But now it is time to dive even deeper and explore a place where survival seems impossible. Because at the very bottom of the Pacific Ocean, the sea floor opens into a mysterious abyss. A place where fish appear to have no faces, vast bacterial mats carpet the ground, and creatures drifting in the darkness look as though they came straight out of science fiction.
There's a place on Earth where the pressure is so extreme that it would crush you into nothing in seconds. But that's not the terrifying part. What's terrifying is what's actually living down there, and what we found at the bottom in 2019 that proves nowhere on this planet is safe from us. Nearly 36,000 feet below the surface of the Pacific Ocean lies the Mariana Trench. It's the deepest place our planet has. For centuries, humans assumed nothing could survive in such a place. We were wrong. The pressure at the bottom equals roughly 16,000 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, imagine 100 full-grown elephants standing on a postage stamp, all at once. That's what every single creature down there experiences every moment of its life. The temperature hovers just above freezing. No sunlight has touched that water in millions of years. Food is so scarce that creatures have evolved to eat almost nothing, yet somehow, life thrives. But here's where the story gets strange. When explorers finally reached the bottom in 2019, they didn't just find bizarre creatures adapted to impossible conditions. They found plastic bags, candy wrappers, human garbage at 36,000 feet deep, the most remote location on the entire planet. A place we thought was beyond our reach had already been contaminated by us. This discovery forced scientists to ask a harder question. If life can survive in the most hostile environment on Earth, why can't our own species figure out how to stop destroying it? The Mariana Trench isn't just a geological marvel. It's a mirror, and what we see reflected in its darkness says something uncomfortable about who we are. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to descend into that darkness. We'll meet creatures that look like they came straight from nightmares. We'll explore ecosystems that shouldn't exist, and we'll uncover a truth that changes everything you thought you knew about the limits of life itself. But first, you need to understand how we even got here. The Mariana Trench curves like a crescent moon beneath the Pacific Ocean. It stretches roughly 1,585 miles long, but only 43 miles wide. From above, it's almost invisible. But beneath the surface, it's a scar in the ocean floor that goes deeper than anywhere else on Earth. This underwater valley wasn't always known to science. For most of human history, we had no idea it even existed. In 1875, a British ship called the HMS Challenger attempted to measure the ocean's depth using a weighted rope. They dropped the line overboard and waited. And waited. The rope kept going down. And down. Eventually, it snapped completely. The crew had no idea anything could be that deep. They gave up trying to measure it. For another 85 years, the Mariana Trench remained a mystery. Scientists debated whether life could possibly exist in such a place. Most believed the answer was no. Too much pressure, too cold, too dark, too little food. The conditions seemed impossible. Then came 1960. Two men made history that no one was prepared for. Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh climbed into a cramped submersible called the Trieste. It looked like a metal egg, barely large enough for both of them to fit inside. The pressure at that depth would be nearly 1,000 times stronger than the atmosphere at sea level. The dive took 5 hours. During the descent, something went wrong. An observation window cracked under the immense force. They only had 20 minutes at the bottom before the damage could become catastrophic. Those 20 minutes changed everything. In that brief window of time, they saw movement in the darkness. Pale shrimp, flatfish-like creatures gliding through the sediment. Life. The question that scientists had debated for decades was suddenly answered. Yes, creatures could survive here. Yes, life found a way. But one discovery in 1960 wasn't enough to truly understand this world. Decades would pass before technology advanced enough to send unmanned submarines down repeatedly. And when those machines finally started exploring the trench in detail, They revealed ecosystems so complex and creatures so bizarre that biologists struggled to explain how they were even possible. The real mystery wasn't whether life existed down there. The real mystery was how. To understand the Mariana Trench, you first need to understand the journey down. The ocean isn't one uniform environment. It's divided into distinct layers, each more hostile than the last. Crossing from one layer to the next means crossing into a completely different world. Let's start at the surface. The topmost layer is called the epipelagic zone. It extends about 650 feet down. This is the only part of the ocean where an unprotected person could theoretically survive. Sunlight penetrates here. Fish congregate in schools. Whales and dolphins migrate through nutrient-rich currents. Predators like sharks and tuna patrol these waters. It's the ocean most people imagine when they think of the sea, but 650 feet is deceptively shallow. Below that lies the mesopelagic zone, the twilight zone. It stretches from 650 feet down to roughly 3,300 feet. The name is fitting. Some light still reaches these depths, but it's fading fast. It's a perpetual dusk. Here, creatures have evolved to thrive in low-light conditions. Giant squid hunt in these waters. Sperm whales dive here to feed. It's a zone most humans will never experience. The deepest a human has ever free-dived on a single breath, while wearing equipment, is about 72 feet. That barely scratches the surface of the twilight zone. Going deeper, you enter the bathypelagic zone. It begins around 3,300 feet and descends to approximately 13,000 feet. Here, the darkness becomes absolute. No light of any kind penetrates this deep. The cold alone would kill you instantly without protection. Yet creatures live here too. Vampire squid drift silently through oxygen-depleted water. Jellyfish with tentacles 30 meters long hunt in the blackness. Everything here has adapted to near-total darkness and starvation-level food availability. Then comes the abyssopelagic zone, stretching from 13,000 feet to 20,000 feet. True to its name, it's pitch black. Organisms here move slowly to conserve energy. Many develop bioluminescence. They create their own light. Food becomes so scarce that every creature becomes an opportunist, ready to consume anything that falls from above. Finally, we reach the Hadal zone. Named after Hades, the underworld of Greek mythology, this zone begins at nearly 20,000 feet and continues past 36,000 feet. It exists only within deep ocean trenches. The Mariana Trench's deepest point, Challenger Deep, sits here at approximately 36,037 feet. To grasp the scale, if you placed Mount Everest at the bottom of Challenger Deep, its summit would still sit more than a mile beneath the ocean surface. The Grand Canyon is 6,000 feet deep. Challenger Deep is 5 times deeper than that. Swimming straight down from the surface at a steady pace would take roughly 4 hours to reach the bottom. The odds of surviving that journey are essentially zero, because as you descend through these zones, one force becomes increasingly deadly: pressure. Pressure is invisible. You can't see it. You can't hear it. But at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, it's the most powerful force in existence. Here's how it works. The deeper you go, the more water accumulates above you. Water is heavy, a lot heavier than air. Every meter of water adds weight. That weight presses down on everything below it. By the time you reach Challenger Deep, the accumulated pressure is approximately 16,000 pounds per square inch. Let that sink in. 16,000 pounds per square inch. At sea level, the pressure is roughly 14.7 pounds per square inch. The trench is more than 1,000 times stronger. It's equivalent to placing 100 full-grown elephants onto a surface the size of a postage stamp all at once. Every single moment, on every single part of your body. If a human somehow survived the cold and the darkness, pressure alone would kill you instantly. Your body would collapse, your bones would shatter, your organs would implode. Death wouldn't take minutes, it would take seconds. But here's where biology becomes truly bizarre. Some creatures down there don't just tolerate this pressure, they actually require it to function. Scientists discovered this in 2012 when they collected bacteria from the seafloor. These microorganisms were pressure dependent. Remove them from the trench's extreme conditions, and they die. Place them back, and they thrive. The thing that would kill every other organism on Earth is what keeps them alive. This discovery shattered a fundamental belief in biology. Scientists had always assumed life could only exist within a relatively comfortable range of conditions: hot, cold, wet, dry, but not too extreme. The trench proved this wrong. The pressure also affects chemistry itself. At extreme depths, materials behave differently. Calcium carbonate, the substance that makes up shells, dissolves more easily under high pressure. There's even a specific depth called the carbonate compensation depth. Below that line, shells dissolve faster than organisms can build them. Yet somehow, creatures down there maintain shells anyway. Some coat themselves in aluminum extracted from the seafloor. Others have exoskeletons so thick that they spend their entire lives reinforcing them. It's an arms race between chemistry and biology. The ocean wants to destroy their shells. The creatures constantly rebuild them. Everything about the trench breaks the rules of biology. Everything except one thing: life itself. Despite the pressure, despite the cold, despite the darkness and starvation, life finds a way. And the creatures that live in this nightmare realm aren't just surviving, they're thriving. If pressure alone would kill everything, how do fish survive at the bottom of the Mariana Trench? The answer lies in one creature, the Mariana snailfish. This is the deepest living fish ever recorded. It was found at a depth of 26,250 feet, still nearly 10,000 feet above the absolute bottom of Challenger Deep. But even at that depth, the pressure is crushing. Yet the snailfish thrives. At first glance, the snailfish seems unremarkable. It's soft, translucent, vaguely tadpole-shaped. Looking at it, you'd think a gentle push would destroy it. Instead, it's one of the most perfectly adapted creatures on the planet. Here's how it survives. Its skeleton is partially made of cartilage instead of bone. Cartilage is flexible. It absorbs pressure and distributes it throughout the body, rather than resisting it. The fish doesn't fight the pressure. It surrenders to it. Its body bends and flexes with the crushing force, preventing damage. The snailfish's skull contains specially shaped internal cavities. These cavities balance the pressure around its brain. Without them, the brain would be crushed. With them, the pressure is equalized. The fish has essentially evolved the perfect helmet. Most fish use air sacs for buoyancy. Air sacs would be crushed instantly at this depth. The snailfish doesn't have them. Instead, it achieves buoyancy through a combination of high water content in its tissues and low-density lipids. Its body composition is precisely calibrated so it neither sinks nor rises. It simply hangs suspended in the darkness, effortlessly maintaining its position. But there's more. The snailfish produces antifreeze proteins. These proteins prevent cellular damage caused by the combined effects of extreme cold and crushing pressure. The water around it is just above freezing. Normal proteins would crystallize and shatter. The snailfish's proteins remain flexible. Its cell membranes use specialized lipids that maintain flexibility in near-freezing temperatures. Most organisms' cell membranes would become rigid and brittle. The snailfish's membranes stay supple, allowing cells to function normally. Even its metabolism has been re-engineered. The snailfish's metabolic rate is dramatically lower than fish living in shallow water. It conserves every ounce of energy it can extract from the minimal food available, moving slowly, hunting passively, existing in a state of perpetual energy conservation. Most snailfish living in the deepest trenches have lost their vision entirely, or nearly lost it. Instead, they navigate and hunt using lateral line sensors, organs that detect minute pressure disturbances in the water. They also use chemoreceptors that sense chemical signals drifting through the water. They've traded eyesight for a sense of the pressure itself. The snailfish holds the confirmed record as the deepest living vertebrate ever observed. No other fish has been found alive at a greater depth. The pressure it endures is equivalent to more than 3,000 large animals, pressing simultaneously against every part of its body. For any ordinary fish, that force would cause instant death. For the snailfish, it's simply home. But the snailfish isn't alone down there, and some of the other creatures have evolved solutions even more extreme. The snailfish may be the deepest fish, but it's far from the strangest creature in the trench. Deep in the twilight zone, there's a fish with a completely transparent head. You can see straight through its skull. You can observe its brain. You can watch its eyes moving inside its head like two green barrels positioned to stare directly upward. This is the barreleye fish. Its eyes are cylindrical and tubular, which is where it gets its name. But they're not just weird looking. They're perfectly designed for hunting in near total darkness. Eyes work like camera lenses. A larger lens captures more light. When you live in an environment almost entirely devoid of light, capturing every photon matters. The barreleye's eyes are enormous relative to its body size. They're essentially biological telescopes. The fish positions itself beneath its prey and watches upward. Any creature passing overhead creates a faint silhouette against the dim light filtering down from above. The barrel eye spots that silhouette and strikes. It hunts from below, using the sky itself as a hunting ground. But transparency and giant eyes are just the beginning. Lower in the trench lives a creature that seems designed to inspire dread: the vampire squid. Its scientific name is Vampiroteuthis infernalis, the vampire squid from hell, and the name is fitting. It's deep red in color with pale, ghostly eyes. It has soft, membranous extensions hanging from its body. It creates its own light through bioluminescence. When threatened, it releases a glowing cloud to disorient predators. In the dark zones it inhabits, it looks like something straight out of mythology. But here's the twist. Despite its terrifying appearance and its dark scientific name, the vampire squid is entirely harmless. It doesn't hunt living creatures. It doesn't feed on blood. Instead, it drifts along ocean currents, collecting marine snow, those organic particles falling continuously from shallower water. It's a scavenger in a family of predators. It's the only known cephalopod that doesn't actively hunt and kill prey. The vampire squid holds another record. It has the largest eyes relative to body size of any animal on Earth. Those massive eyes let it capture the maximum amount of faint light available at that depth. It also has an ancient evolutionary history. Fossils show its lineage dates back approximately 300 million years. Its body plan has remained largely unchanged throughout that entire time. Evolution hasn't felt the need to redesign it. Then there's the barrel-eye's cousin, a small fish so bizarre that it challenges what we think a fish should look like. The fangtooth fish has teeth so large they're longer than its own head. The teeth angle inward like a cage. When something enters its mouth, it cannot escape. The more prey struggles, the deeper it gets impaled on the fangs. The fangs are so long that the fish cannot fully close its mouth. Its skull has special sockets, where the lower teeth fit when the mouth closes. Otherwise, the fangs would pierce its own brain. These aren't adaptations for a comfortable existence. These are weapons forged by millions of years of survival, in an environment where food is so scarce that every meal might be your last. And yet, life continues to innovate. The creatures we've discussed so far are hunters or scavengers, but they're only part of the story. The real mystery is how entire ecosystems exist in a place where food should be impossible to find. The answer lies in death itself. When a whale dies and sinks to the ocean floor, it carries with it an enormous amount of energy. A whale carcass can weigh up to 50 tons or more. That's roughly 110,000 pounds of flesh, fat, and bone. For deep-sea life, this is like hitting the jackpot. Within just a few hours of touching the seafloor, scavengers arrive. Hagfish burrow into the soft tissue and feed from the inside out. Sleeper sharks tear away large chunks of fat. Thousands of amphipod crustaceans gather and strip flesh from the bones. This intense feeding activity can last for months. But here's where it gets strange. Even after the soft parts have completely vanished, the whale fall continues to bring life to the area. Bacteria colonize the bones and break down the fat stored within them. These microorganisms rely on chemosynthesis, the same process that supports life around hydrothermal vents. They convert the chemicals in the bones into usable energy and generate a new food source. Worms feed on these bacteria. Snails feed on the worms. Larger predators feed on those animals. A single whale can support hundreds of species for 50 years or even longer. Death becomes a powerful resource, a gift from the sunlit surface that sustains life in the deep. But whales aren't the only energy source. Scattered across the trench floor are hydrothermal vents. These plumes reach temperatures of approximately 750 degrees Fahrenheit. The stark contrast between the erupting water and the frigid surrounding environment creates columns rich in minerals. Giant tube worms cluster in dense colonies around these vents. They have no mouths, no digestive system. Instead, specialized internal organs house communities of bacteria that convert the chemicals from the vent directly into usable nutrients. The worms and bacteria exist in permanent mutual dependence. Neither could survive without the other. Then there are creatures no one expected to find at such depths. In 2012, explorers discovered something that rewrote biology textbooks: eosinophyophores, giant single-celled organisms. They can grow to a diameter of 4 inches, making them among the largest individual cells known to exist on Earth. They construct external casings from materials they gather nearby. Sponge fragments, mineral grains, the remains of other microorganisms. They bind these materials together with organic cement. These creatures live in dense populations along the seafloor. They feed by collecting fine sediment particles and the organic matter mixed within them. Both living xenophyophores and the empty shells of deceased individuals serve as habitat for other deep-sea organisms. Single-celled organisms the size of your thumb. Life thrives in darkness, pressure, and starvation. But there's one discovery that changed everything about how we understand the trench. And it's not beautiful. For decades, scientists viewed the Mariana Trench as a pristine world, untouched by human civilization, a place where nature operated on its own terms, unaffected by the choices we make on the surface. That assumption ended in 2019. Explorer Victor Vescovo had made multiple dives to Challenger Deep. On one of these expeditions, he discovered something that stunned both the scientific community and the public. Resting on the ocean floor at approximately 35,000 feet beneath the surface was a plastic bag. Nearby were candy wrappers, human garbage at the most remote and isolated location on the entire planet. The most remote location on Earth had been reached by human waste. This wasn't just an isolated incident. When scientists began analyzing samples collected from the trench more carefully, they found microplastics in nearly every specimen. Not just near the plastic, but inside the tissues of living creatures. Fish had consumed plastic particles. The pollution had worked its way into the food chain. But plastic was only the beginning. Researchers detected forever chemicals at the bottom of the trench. Chemicals called PFAS that don't break down in nature. They persist indefinitely. These same chemicals had been found in higher concentrations at Challenger Deep than in some polluted rivers on land. Then came the discovery of radioactive particles. Scientists found evidence of radiation from nuclear tests conducted in the 1950s and 1960s, 70 years earlier. The radioactive isotopes had traveled down through the water column and settled on the seafloor. They were still detectable, still present, still affecting organisms living there. Mercury accumulated in the tissues of deep-sea creatures at toxic levels, even though the source was thousands of miles away. Pharmaceutical residues, antidepressants, antibiotics, and other drugs were found in amphipods living at extreme depths. These creatures had been exposed to human medicine without ever encountering a human. The implications were staggering. If plastic debris had already settled at the bottom of Challenger Deep, then there was no place left on Earth that was truly untouched by human activity. Not the Arctic, not the deepest ocean, not anywhere. The Mariana Trench had proven time and again that extreme environments are no barrier to life. Creatures had evolved solutions to pressure, cold, and darkness that seemed impossible. They had conquered the most hostile place on the planet. But now, the trench also showed us something else. Those extreme environments are no barrier to us either, and not always in ways we can be proud of. The question became unavoidable. If life can adapt to survive in the deepest, darkest, most pressurized place on Earth, why can't our own species figure out how to stop destroying it? Despite decades of exploration, we've barely scratched the surface of understanding the Mariana Trench. We've explored less than 5% of the total volume of the ocean. The trench remains largely mysterious. Scientists have recorded sounds down there that they still cannot explain. The most famous is called the bloop, a massive low-frequency sound that propagated across the entire Pacific monitoring network. It was so powerful that it was picked up by hydrophones thousands of miles apart. For years, researchers debated its origin. Some proposed a massive unknown creature. Others suggested calving icebergs. The truth remains unconfirmed. But the bloop isn't alone. There's another signal called the upsweep. It's been recorded continuously since 1991. It consists of a series of narrow, continuously rising sounds, occurring multiple times per minute. Despite decades of analysis, its origin has never been definitively identified. Most researchers suspect a geological source rather than biological, but no one knows for certain. Then there's the Julia sound. First recorded in 1999, it was powerful enough to register across the entire Pacific monitoring network. It lasted approximately 15 seconds and carried the acoustic signature of a massive object moving through the water column. The leading hypothesis is a large iceberg running aground. But the specific acoustic characteristics don't fully align with that explanation. A small number of researchers have proposed a large, unknown biological source. No known animal produces sound of that magnitude, but that doesn't mean such an animal doesn't exist. Beyond the sounds, there are deeper mysteries. What lies beneath the sediment at the trench's bottom? Life may exist meters deep in the seafloor mud, completely unobserved. Is there an absolute maximum depth where life can no longer exist? Or can organisms survive even deeper than we've found? Do any species migrate between depths seasonally? We don't know. The breeding patterns of most trench creatures have never been observed. They reproduce in ways we've never witnessed. There's also the question of apex predators. We've found snailfish, amphipods, and other creatures, but what hunts them? Something large must be eating the fish we've discovered, yet we've never seen it. Something could be lurking in the darkness, completely unknown to science. New species are discovered on nearly every deep-sea expedition. In 2023, scientists found previously unknown varieties of snailfish. The trench continues to reveal life forms we've never encountered. For all our technology and exploration, the Mariana Trench remains one of Earth's greatest unknowns. And that's where the real story begins. We came to the Mariana Trench looking for answers. What exists in the deepest place on Earth? We found creatures that defy biology, ecosystems that shouldn't exist, life thriving under conditions that would annihilate everything else. But the real answer is more complicated than any creature we discovered. The Mariana Trench taught us something uncomfortable about our own species. We learned that we've reached every corner of this planet, the highest mountains, the frozen poles, the deepest oceans. There's nowhere left that's truly untouched by human activity. We found plastic at 36,000 feet. We found radiation from bombs dropped 70 years ago. We found pharmaceuticals in creatures that have never seen a human. We found forever chemicals that won't break down for centuries. The question isn't just what exists in the deepest place on Earth. The question is, what have we done to it? But here's what keeps scientists up at night. We haven't found the worst of it yet. Deep-sea mining operations are being planned. Corporations are developing technology to extract rare minerals from the ocean floor near trenches. The machines would be deployed within the next decade. They would scrape and dredge the seafloor, destroying ecosystems we've barely begun to understand. We would be mining for materials to power our phones and computers, destroying habitats that took millions of years to evolve. And we're doing this despite barely understanding what we'd be destroying. We still don't know what creates the mysterious sounds. We still haven't identified the apex predators. We haven't observed the breeding patterns of most trench creatures. We haven't explored 95% of the ocean's volume. Yet we're preparing to industrialize it. The Mariana Trench exists as a mirror. When we look into its darkness, we don't just see strange creatures and impossible ecosystems. We see ourselves. We see a species that has conquered every environment on Earth. A species that has reached the bottom of the ocean. And we see what we've left behind. One plastic bag at a time. One radioactive particle at a time. One forever chemical at a time. The creatures of the Mariana Trench have spent millions of years perfecting their survival in the most hostile environment on the planet. They've adapted to pressure that would crush us instantly. They've evolved solutions to darkness, cold, and starvation that seem to defy physics. But they may not survive what comes next. Because the real predator at the bottom of the ocean isn't looking for food, it's looking for profit, and it's coming soon.